Listen now, we the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard podcast. Week 6 in the NFL. We got 5 weeks in the book, so that's over, roughly a third of the season, getting close to a third of the season. Quarter of the season's done. We're getting to the point where we can draw some conclusions about teams and kind of judge what direction they're heading. First of all, we need to know what direction we are heading, though, because I have a feeling that our predictions weren't, or at least mine weren't good, but maybe I'm mistaken. So, Smokey, how are you doing? And also, how did we do last week?
Well, myself, I'm doing okay. I am mad, but I'm doing better than Steelers fans right now because they got stomped out.
No.
You know, I would have called out the Lions here because they completely got stomped out too, but the Lions are used to losing, whereas the Steelers are not. So this is something new to them. Kenny Pickett did not show up. He tried. I'll give it to Kenny. He tried his heart out, but they walked into a buzzsaw here. The Bills were just way too good for them. For his first start, and maybe it will shape up later once the team gets used to playing with each other like this, but as for right now, it's horrible, man, and I don't think they're going to win a game in the next 4 or 5 games.
Quite possible.
Yeah, but as far as our predictions, you weren't that bad. You got 10 right overall, but unfortunately I got 12, so I made up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Good.
I made up 2 more. I don't know why you would pick the Steelers, but you did.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I picked the Steelers. Maybe that alone tainted my perception of how badly I did.
I mean, just as bad, I picked the Lions to beat the Patriots.
Yeah, true.
But the Saints and Seahawks, and what else did we have? The Cowboys, Rams, and what else did we disagree on? Was that it?
Might have been all.
Yeah, I think so.
But you won the 2.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it brings our total 42 for me, 43 for you. So you're still leading by 1 point. Luckily, you
getting close.
Yeah,
getting close. So I gotta catch. I gotta run away again and not let you catch up. It was a comfortable lead after 2 weeks, and now I gotta get back into it.
Oh yeah.
So quickly before we do predictions, right? We have to do our MVP rankings as we do every week, and this is for maybe a little bit some value in this already because it's been 5 weeks, so it's a bit more steady this time. There's not a lot of movement happening for me. Number 1 still Josh Allen, same as last week. 2 Patrick Mahomes, same as last week. 3 Justin Herbert, same as last week. Neither of the 3 have done anything to lose that spot, in my opinion. They've all played well and they all won their game. Lamar Jackson up 1 more spot in number 4 because he's consistently showing up and he's definitely putting up the stats to back it. And number 5 is a new face, and it's Gino Smith. I have Gino Smith at number 5 in my MVP rankings. Now, I know the Seahawks don't have the record to justify this. I get that. But I'm judging the player, because in terms of record, every team is still in the running to make the playoffs. I'm judging the player, and statistically speaking, you could definitely make the argument for Gino Smith to be number 5. He's leading the league in passer rating right now. Number 1. Above all your Allens, Mahomes, and Rodgers is Gino Smith in passer rating with 112, which is incredibly strong. So, to me, deserved number 5 spot. Then in the hunt, we still have Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, who's okay. Of course, the more games he misses, the more he falls down the list. So hopefully he'll be back and starting soon. And then Jared Goff. Also, even though of course this last game not looking too good statistically speaking, though the Lions are in it, and he's still up there in the top 10 in almost every stat. So I have him as an honorable mention in the list. How about you?
Actually, I got a little bit of a disagreement. I see it as 3 tiers. Now, I'm not basing mine analytically. This is just the eye test. This is just I'm watching these guys play and who I would go for at this moment. I got 3 tiers. And in tier number 1, Allen sits there by himself. Yes, Mahomes may be knocking on the door, but I've got Mahomes and Jalen Hurts in tier 2 off to themselves. And then there is a good distance between the next 3 guys that are coming up in the distance, and that would be Herbert, Lamar, Cousins, and now I'm wondering if if I should be putting Gino in there. I mean, it sounds weird as it sounds. Maybe the stats are showing up for him, but usually you got to at least make the playoffs to win this title here. So
yes, mandatory playoffs, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know how that's going to work out for him, but hey, I agree. But this is what people expected out of Gino when he was drafted back in, what was it, 2013 or whatever it was?
12, 13, something like that. Yeah, 13 sounds right. 13 sounds right. So.
Wasn't that the Colt McCoy year?
Mm-hmm, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Yep. But yeah, he was expected to be this good and did not pan out, but now he's getting his second chance at the NFL and proving himself. He's got a bad team to play with. That's a big problem. I mean, if this guy was on the Chiefs or something like that, he'd probably be winning a lot of games at this point, but yeah, it is what it is. Gino might be something to be reckoned with.
He's still competing, so that's, well, it's not good to see because it's Seattle after all, but it definitely a name we didn't expect. I think all of the other names we have kind of up there, like at Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, like we've expected to see those in the conversation. Gino Smith is a complete novelty, so that's an interesting thing. Before we get into predictions, just one point I want to make, because we're about a third through the season now, so stats are starting to have a little bit of meaning to them. There's a certain, I don't know if you remember him, he used to be good, Davante Adams, his name is. He used to be good receiver back in the past few years when he was with he played with a certain quarterback who was responsible for all of his success. And Davante Adams, I claimed that he would not be a top 5 receiver anymore without Aaron Rodgers. And at the moment, he's sitting at a solid 13th in receptions in the entire league, behind, including but not limited to, Austin Eckler and Tyler Higbee. So, yeah, it's about where he belongs in terms of receivers, knocking on the top 10, but not quite there.
Oh, I do have to say, well, he also had 2 really bad weeks. And he's had 3 good weeks, but as far as last night, he had 3 receptions for like 140 something yards. So it was like, what was it, 42 or 43 yards per reception, which was pretty amazing if you can break off over 40 yards per reception. But the targets aren't there, so yeah, he's not going to lead the league in receptions at all.
He also has he actually has more targets than a lot of guys in front of him.
Or the receptions aren't there. Maybe the targets are, but these are Derek Carr targets here.
Yeah, this is not the same as Aaron Rodgers targets, because Rodgers targets, you close your eyes, ball hits your hands. This is different. Mm-hmm. He also had a phenomenal block against that camera guy yesterday as well.
Oh man, he might get punished for that too.
Oh, he might get fined for that, because that's like, you're messing with TV crew. Like those are even more heavily protected than quarterbacks.
Oh yeah.
That's
oh god, yeah. Lucky he didn't get a roughing the cameraman call.
Roughing the cameraman, yeah. It was pretty much there. And I guess we'll get into the whole quarterback controversy as we talk about the team. So let's just hop into hopping into these games for week 6, and we have a good slate here. Starting off Thursday night with something that no one's going to be interested in at all, but we have to do it for the sake of completion. The Washingtons at the Bears.
Yeah, no one at all is really caring about this game. Why is this an island game out by itself? This is a tank bowl. Already, this early in the season, this is most likely a tank bowl. Which one of these teams is going to get Bryce Young and which one is going to get C.J. Stroud? That's the question at this point. Oh man, I hate to see that Justin Fields might get replaced at the end of this year, but on the trajectory they're on, he may end up getting replaced. Looking at this game, Carson Wentz looks good for half a game and then completely falls apart for half a game. And the Bears, like you said last week, like they're afraid to pass the ball. There was an amazing catch by Darnell Mooney, so you have a receiver that can go get the ball sometimes when you air it out, but he's not being allowed to air it out. Now, Justin Fields has an amazing arm. I don't know. This is a coaching problem. This is absolutely a coaching problem, in my opinion. Good to see David Montgomery back, being that they are a running team. That is an excellent running back, and he did some work here. As far as this, the Commanders are bad. It's nice to see that Brian Robinson is back after being shot, and He looks like he's going to be promising, but I will take the Bears at home in the Tank Bowl.
Yeah, this one's a tough game to pick. The over-under is at 38, which might be the lowest I've seen all season, which should tell you exactly how excited people are for this game. I'll take the Bears as well. I want to say that Carson Wentz kind of looks like he fell off a cliff. Like, remember, I had him in my honorable mentions for the MVP for the first 2 weeks because he legitimately put up the stats and played well. And then this whole team fell off a cliff, and in what seems to paradoxically be one of the strongest divisions in the NFL, which no one expected, by the way. This is the NFC East, mind you, and we have one of the strongest combined records that we're seeing. Washington's just not keeping up at all. Expecting this Carson Wentz experiment there to not be so successful, maybe not last very long. But yeah, I'll take the Bears. 1 point game by the odds makers. To me, this is, flip a coin, but I'm gonna just trust Justin Fields to flash the potential and beat a bad team. Niners at the Falcons.
I'm so depressed over this, man. The Falcons had a chance to win that game. I think the world saw it. Even if you weren't watching that game happen, you saw a clip at some point of this call that was made to protect Tom Brady and make sure Tom Brady won that game. The Falcons are doing what they've been doing all season and coming back at the end of the game, and they really had a chance to pull that off. The defense was making the stops. They were making the stops so well that the referees had to call fake calls to protect Tom Brady to make sure he won this game, because Tom Brady is an asset to the NFL and we have to make sure he wins regardless of who he's playing against, especially the Falcons. Obviously, if it's the Falcons, we're definitely going to call those. Even when there is nothing to be called, we have to throw flags because Tom Brady beats the Falcons. That's just how it works, and we have to protect our asset, NFL, right? 49ers looked really good. They whooped the crap out of the Panthers. And Baker Mayfield is hurt. This is not going to help the Panthers at all. I'm sorry. I got off on a tangent about the Panthers. But 49ers were really good, man. I'm just so mad about that call, dude. I want to just I want to fire Jerome Boger, man. I just wish the guy would get fired. But anyway, 49ers are good. Falcons are not, except for the last quarter of the game. Expect them to start coming back, but I think the 49ers are just too good because it's Kyle Shanahan and he owns the Falcons also. So I'll take the Niners on the road.
So I'll say one thing. Number one, that was one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. There's I think very little doubt about that. And this rule demands change, or else they can. Like, I saw Micah Parsons tweet this. He said, "Change the rule or make it 7-on-7," because this is completely ridiculous. The point that it's gotten to, and I completely agree with that. So this has to change, and it has to change fast. It has to change this offseason. And it wasn't the only one, by the way. We saw one against Kansas City as well, in the game against the Raiders. And I believe the only reason that isn't faced with quite as much outrage is because Kansas City ended up winning that game. I think if the Raiders win that game, that's possibly just as bad, possibly a worse one to call. So two of the most ridiculous ones back to back. And yes, I know this is not like proven or whatever, but of course there's favoritism for certain players, certain quarterbacks, certain superstars that have been in the league for a long time. That's been a thing for a long time. I remember one famous example of Drew Brees on a sack against the 49ers, got a very questionable call going his way. The whole rule change was initiated when Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone on a hit from Anthony Barr. Those guys get extra protection, we know that. And yes, the NFL has a strong incentive for the Bucs to win that game, because Tom Brady can't miss the playoffs in what is potentially his last season. And losing to a division rival for the division lead is dangerous. That's a big risk. So yes, the NFL has an incentive to make that call, which is problematic. But fundamentally, this rule has to change. You talked about the Panthers. Yeah, they're in complete disarray. I'm going to get to them when we get to them. Yeah. For this game, I'll pick the Niners as well. I'm gonna say they're gonna. Did you actually make a pick?
I did. Yeah, I picked the Niners.
You did. You picked. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna pick the Niners as well, because they're looking strong. But I will say, the Falcons are better than than I expected them to be. They're competitive. They're competitive in this division, so this is not going to be a pushover. This is going to be a lot more difficult than the game at Carolina. I'm expecting this to be a tough one and probably a one-score game. These teams have played, it feels like, every season. It's the past few years, which is interesting because, of course, they're our respective teams and we get to talk about it every time. The Falcons have given the Niners troubles over the past few years. Every single time they've kind of played up to the competition. So I know this is going to be a tough one, but I'm going to stick with the Niners to take it. Patriots at the Browns.
Well, man, the Patriots, that was a surprise. Maybe not to you, but it was to me because I thought the Lions had an explosive offense, even though they had been losing some games. But the Patriots completely shut that down. Just squashed them and held them to exactly 0 points. Pitched a shutout. The Patriots looked really good. It's amazing. The Browns, on the other hand, the Browns are playing well even in their losses. They really put up a ton of points against the Chargers and the Falcons, for that matter. Like, when they're losing games, they are staying in there until the very end. So I expect this to be, I wouldn't say a shootout because these are both running teams, and it's probably going to be Ramondre Stevens versus Nick Chubb out there. But it'll probably be a decent scoring game, and it's going to be close, neck and neck through the whole thing. But I guess you got to go with coaches here, and I will take Bill Belichick to win this one on the road.
Man, if you include that Super Bowl with the Rams, Jared Goff now averages 1.5 points per game when he's facing the Patriots.
That's true.
It's a rough one. Yeah, it was a defensive masterpiece. I mean, backup of the backup in that quarterback. The Lions are the highest scoring team in the NFL, and he shut them out for 0 points. That's how the Patriots. That's vintage Patriots, if we can say vintage, because it hasn't been that long. But that's how they win games. That's how they are great. And if that keeps on, like if that continues, they're always a team to be reckoned with because of that sort of ability. In this one, I'm going to take them as well. I'm going to take the more disciplined team, which I know the Patriots to be. The Browns are, in many cases, the opposite of the Patriots. The Browns like to play an explosive offensive game. The Browns have a lot of characters on their team. They're volatile. They're a little bit off the beaten path at times. Very polarizing team. In that sense, the Patriots are completely opposite, and I tend to trust that brand of football more, so I will agree with you, and I'm going to take the Patriots. Jets at the Packers.
Well, this is actually a tough decision, considering we watched the game last week, and the Packers got stopped at the very end of the game, and the Giants pulled it out again. However, the Jets got a win also over the Dolphins. Now, Teddy Bridgewater went out pretty early in this game, and they were operating with a third stringer here. So it's kind of to be expected. But the Dolphins have firepower, and the Jets came through and shut that down. And I guess Raheem was the best player in that game, considering you got a third-string quarterback out there and wasn't going to be able to hit a lot of wide receivers. But that makes it tough because you're wondering if the Packers are going to get going, you know. Fun fact, Aaron Rodgers threw to the first round pick in his entire career, from what they said, was Mercedes Lewis, as a matter of fact. Imagine that. The tight end that rarely ever gets a catch was actually a first rounder, and that was a first for Aaron Rodgers, which is ridiculous. But I guess it's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers, even though Zach looked good. He looked really good, and the Jets looked amazing for being the Jets. But I gotta bet on Rodgers here. I gotta take the Packers at home.
Yeah, I'm happy for Zach Wilson, right? Because it always felt like he's getting fed to the Sharks yet again, going to this consistently terrible organization, and it seems like at least now that they're not completely awful, and he's getting a chance to operate the offense, which I was worried about when he got drafted. I did not want him to go to waste, like Sam Darnold did, like you would have thought Gino Smith did. And it seems right now he's keeping himself above water, which is good. As for this game, it was a slip-up against the Giants, no doubt. It was a London game. And they should have won it. I mean, they came one play away from winning it, in which, great defensive play, batting that ball down. The Giants earned that win, have to say. They broke up the crucial pass. And they earned the win with that goal line stand. I'm going to pick the Packers anyway. This is... it would be an overreaction to go Jets here, so I'm not gonna fall for it. I need to see more. Packers, proven commodity, as you like to say in fantasy, and then the Packers are the proven commodity in real football. So, gonna go with him. Jaguars at the Colts.
Yeah, this is another situation where the proven commodity. You know, the Colts are usually a playoff team versus a team that almost always under succeeds. Now, we wanted to believe in the Jaguars. We wanted to believe that they can get it going, but you just lost 13-6 to the Texans. The Texans are probably the worst team in the entire league. After looking so well, that offense just could not get firing. They were shutting down Trevor Lawrence in this one. Man, I thought they were on a roll, and maybe they'll pull it back together, but the Colts is no stranger to low-scoring games. We saw that against the Broncos on Thursday night. But this is a tough one because you have to wonder if the Jaguars can get it going. But I think it's more of a toss-up considering last week's play for both these teams. So I'll take the 3 points for the Colts at home.
Yeah, this is difficult. The Jaguars are a more talented team offensively, and that counts for a lot. But I will say the Colts have a lot of veteran presence on defense that would probably force Trevor Lawrence to make a mistake or two, which in a low-scoring game, as you said, could be the deciding factor. I want to believe that the Jaguars have a higher upside, that they're overall the better team. But I'm going to give this one to the Colts because momentum dictates that that's how it would go with the Jaguars. Coming off of their worst game so far, I will say Colts take this one at home, having that additional advantage as well. Vikings at the Dolphins.
Man, I think I texted you halfway through this Vikings game last week and said that Kirk Cousins has entered the MVP chat because
you did.
He was pitching a perfect game halfway through that. Now, he did throw an interception later, so he kind of came back to earth, but him and why am I forgetting the wide receiver's name? Justin Jefferson. Him and Justin Jefferson were on just this mind meld wavelength because he just couldn't miss, and they were scoring and scoring and scoring. But like I said, it did come back down to earth eventually, and it is what it is. But the Dolphins, like I said, who knows what their situation is? If you're a Dolphins quarterback and someone taps you on the head, they're going to pull you out of the game at this point. If they're playing third stringer out there, there's no way they can win this game, even at home. I have to go with the Vikings here.
Yeah, so I don't know what's up with the Dolphins quarterback situation. A lot of uncertainty. We don't know what's gonna be happening, and with that, and presuming they're third stringer. By the way, the Vikings are 4-1, so they're kind of leading the division there, and they're looking pretty good for some reason. It makes it very, very hard to pick a Dolphins team that looked like the best team in the league for the first three weeks, and maybe the most talented or one of the most talented offensive units. But with the quarterback situation being what it is, we don't know what's going to happen. I do agree with you. I have to pick Minnesota there to keep winning. They've won a couple close ones, but there was some decisive with some very, very strong ones. So got to pick them to improve the 5-1, and maybe we'll look at the Vikings and say they might be for real this year. Bengals at Saints.
Yeah, I'm going to pat myself on the back real quick, and I told you on the scoreboard, I told everyone, if you have Taysom Hill play him last week, he came through. He was one of the top scorers in all of fantasy football this past week. Now, if you were able to plug him into your tight end slot, there was no way you lost last week. It's just not possible. And that worked out. The Saints looked good last week. And the Bengals, in a low-scoring game for the Bengals and the Ravens, that is, you would think this was going to be a shootout, and it looked like it was going to be a shootout at the very first of the game when the Ravens went up 10-0, but they just stopped scoring at some point, and then they went into the half and came back, and they weren't putting up points like I thought, and you got to wonder if it's the hangover. I think the Rams are feeling it too, maybe, at this point. I think I'm going to take the Saints to keep winning. And Jameis might be out there, which actually helps them. But I think they may win this game at home with Taysom also. So, however this plays out, I'm taking the Saints.
Okay. I'm going to make my first stand here today, I think. This is the first one I'm disagreeing with you. I'm going to take the Bengals. I'm putting my trust in Cincinnati here, knowing what they are capable of. And also knowing what Jameis Winston is capable of, which is throwing 4 interceptions in any given game. And it's overdue, right? If he comes back, it's long overdue that he throws 3 touchdowns, but also 3 picks in the same game. And if that happens and you give Joe Burrow and that offense, those dominant receivers, a short field to work with multiple times, they'll usually punish you. They'll usually score full touchdowns out of those situations. So trusting the Bengals to go to New Orleans and get it done, but I will admit that it's closer than I would like to think. But it is because the Bengals have been playing down to the competition so far this year. The Ravens at the Giants.
This is interesting. The Ravens have also been playing down, or at least in the past couple of weeks. They are capable of blowing teams out, and then sometimes they put up a game like last week, but they're still winning more than losing. But then the Giants are just winning. It's all through the running game because they have no one out there of note at receiver. You're playing with Richie James, and you're praying that Wendell Robinson, that half the people watching the game don't even know who that is. You're praying that he gets back so they got something to throw to. Kadarius Toney is on the back of a milk carton at this point. Sterling Shepard is injured. Who knows when he'll be back, if at all, this year. But they're winning. Somehow they are still winning through that ground game. And Saquon Barkley is amazing. And Daniel Jones is an excellent runner. The guy can get it done on the ground. So that's how they're going to continue to win. This is going to be run versus run. Running quarterback versus running quarterback. Lamar has the advantage in throwing the ball because he's actually got some people of note to throw the ball to. But the Giants are at home. So I think we'll disagree on this one. I'm going to pick the Giants to keep winning here.
Oh, this is a tough one to pick. Like, you read the names and obviously it should be an easy pick, right? But it really is not. And the Giants are looking great. Now, one thing I have to call out on this topic is I like to look at the NFL.com power rankings every week, right? And there's this one thing that's just been unacceptable to me, and it's getting more and more offensive every single week. So you have the Giants back-to-back with the Raiders, a 4-1 team ranked 13th in the league, and a 1-4 team ranked 14th in the league.
Wow.
I don't care about who they played. This isn't right. This is the first week the Giants are actually above the Raiders, and just by 1 spot. This is not right. You cannot tell me that the Bucs deserve to be ranked 6th in the league with how they've played so far when the Giants are 13th. It just does not make sense. Tennessee 11? No. Doesn't make sense. These power rankings are lagging behind a few weeks every single week. They're just not they're not stringent enough. So that I have to call out. As for this game, I'm gonna take the Ravens, and I'm gonna take the Ravens based on one single person, that being Lamar Jackson. Now these are 2 quarterbacks that have been excellent this year, and especially in the running game as well. Those are legitimate dual threat quarterbacks. I think the Giants defense tends to have a little bit more trouble containing that type of quarterback as compared to the Ravens defense. Ravens defense has generally done a pretty good job keeping mobile quarterbacks in the pocket, blitzing relatively little, and when they do, they keep contained very well. to me, I think Lamar Jackson is going to break off one more big run as opposed to Daniel Jones, and that's going to make the difference. But it's going to be a close game, which no one would have thought at the start of the season, and it's good to see. This is one of the top games. These are 2 top 10 teams. One of the top games this week. Looking forward to it, but I'm putting my money on the Ravens, and there's another disagreement there. So we have some conflict. Bucs at the Steelers.
Well, we go from 2 dual threat quarterbacks to 2 no threat quarterbacks. At this point, Tom Brady is well past his prime. This is worse than the zombie Peyton year. Like, he's playing worse than Peyton did in his. Peyton won a Super Bowl in his final year, and I guess those power rankings probably add the refs' advantage into that. They bake it in, so that's why they're number 6, because the refs are going to make sure they win. So who knows? Tom Brady might win another Super Bowl this year just to end it off, even though he's playing like the mummy coming out of the tomb there. On the other side, Kenny, man, he might work out, but it's not going to work out right now. This defense is going to eat him alive. I like to see that he's got some fire. I mean, he got up and wanted to fight old, who was it, Shaq Thompson or whatever? He got up wanting to throw hands with old boy. And he's like 3 times his size, too. He was going to give him them tiny little hands, though. I got to pick the Bucs here. I mean, I don't like the Bucs, and I don't like Tom Brady, and I don't like Jerome Booger, but I'll take the Bucs to win this game.
So one thing I also wanted to point out is, of course, we like to hate on the guy who actually makes the call, right? Jerome Boger, in this case, the white hat official. Just to like the Twitter crowd with the pitchforks and the torches. More often than not, the actual flag isn't thrown by the white hat. He's more of like the head of officiating who has to sit there and explain the ridiculous reasoning of one of his colleagues to a TV audience. So. If you want a scapegoat, look at who actually threw the flag, and it's more than likely not going to be Jerome Boger in this case. But either way, the whole officiating crew obviously messed up. If something like that happens, you have to talk the other guy out of this. That's why you're allowed to discuss. I agree. Take Tampa Bay to win. Man, Kenny Pickett, what do you want to say? He's getting thrown in the fire. First start against the Bills, top 5 defense. Second start against the Bucs, top 5 defense. Next week it's the Dolphins, where Tua might be back. It's tough. It's a tough schedule. Long road ahead. So Bucs win this one. Panthers at the Rams.
All right, now we can finally talk about Baker Mayfield and how he is not looking good, and he's banged up right now, and he's not going to win if he wasn't. Like, this team is horrible. So horrible that you guys came to town and made them finally fire their head coach. That was long overdue in Panthers fans' eyes. They wanted him out of there long ago. So now we have gotten rid of Matt Rule and Joe Judge. So both of the court duo there is finally out as head coaches. They were hired back to back, like on the same day, I think it was, too. And now both of their runs are over. On the other hand, the Rams aren't looking good. Not at all. Like the Cowboys and Cooper, which is still undefeated. We'll talk about him later. Came to town and put a whooping on you, huh? Super Bowl hangover. I gotta say it again. The Rams and the Bengals are on that Super Bowl hangover. It's gotta be. They can't get it together. He can only hit Cooper Kupp for some reason. Robinson and Van Jefferson can't catch anything thrown their direction, apparently. I don't know whose fault this is, but I bet they're wishing they had Odell back at this point. Run game is not much better either. But as far as this, it's like, who's worse, though? The Panthers or the Rams? You got to say the Panthers are worse overall, but I'm afraid they're going to get that 2-game coaching change-up bump and ruin my pick here. But other than that, I have to go with the Rams at home.
Oh, this is hard to not pick the Rams, is it? Like, man, see, there's 2 reasons to believe in the Panthers here, because there's a lot of, like, a breath of fresh air coming up. Coaching change, and also guess who's starting at quarterback? your guy, PJ Walker.
Yeah,
more than
yeah,
likely
that's true.
is the starter for the Panthers. Because remember, Sam Darnold got hurt early in the season. Baker Mayfield is out as well now. And you know what? I think this is, to like Panthers fans, this is also like a breath of fresh air. They're not too unhappy about seeing neither of those two taking the start because they're probably sick of it. So PJ Walker is definitely a switch up. Now, that being said, this is a bad team overall, undisciplined, not very productive at all, and the Rams are still the Rams and should have the talent to win. It's hard to not pick them. This is an absolute must win for the Rams with their record being 2-3 at the moment. You can't justify losing to one of the worst teams in the league, so I will pick them to get it done because of their experience and veteran presence. And if it's Cooper Kupp by himself, then it's Cooper Kupp by himself. You know, he'll have to be able to do it. It's gonna be interesting to see for sure, but I don't believe that the Panthers can pull this off. I'll be rooting for them, no doubt, but I don't believe it. Rams to win. Mm-hmm. Cardinals at the Seahawks.
You know, now that I think about it, Matt Rule was the Temple quarterback or coach, and PJ Walker was the Temple quarterback. So he doesn't have his coach anymore. How is that going to work out?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. Cardinals have no running back, I'll tell you that. They are actually trying out a litany of running backs right now, including Corey Clement, if you remember him from Eagles fame a few years back. They're trying to get some running backs in there because everyone they have is beat up at this point. And the Seahawks, on the other hand, they don't have a defense. They got guys out there on the field, but they don't stop anything at all. This is kind of tough here. It's a divisional matchup. The Seahawks have a much more explosive offense at this point, but it's still a divisional matchup, and I expect it to be close. But in that case, you have to go coaches, and I'm going to give it to Pete Carroll and my MVP candidate, Gino Smith here.
Your MVP candidate?
Yeah, well, you gave him to me, so.
True, I did. This is a difficult one. Both these teams are kind of struggling. I think the Seahawks are playing better than we expected, and the Cardinals are playing worse than we expected. I think that's definitely one thing that's to be said. Noteworthy is that the Cardinals should easily be 1-4 right now because they won by some absolute miracle against the Raiders. If we think back to that, and there's good argument of picking Seattle. I'm not gonna lie, there's a good argument to pick Seattle, which means I'm picking Arizona to win because the NFC West is nuts and it's crazy and nothing that you think should happen ever happens, and therefore that means that Arizona is going to win this game at Seattle, and I guess Kyler Murray is probably going to outplay Geno Smith for some reason. By the way, if you want to talk about disappointing quarterbacks, Kyler Murray has been
absolutely
not good. It looks especially bad considering the waves he was making, the type of money he was asking for in the offseason. He's not doing himself any favors with the play that's going on right now because he's the worst quarterback in that division. Mm-hmm. Flat out, throughout 5 weeks, he's playing the worst quarterback in the division, and that's never a recipe for success. So I'm gonna say the Cardinals bounce back, get the much-needed win, because they have playoff aspirations, as opposed to Seattle. They didn't really at the start of the season. Maybe now they do, but I'm gonna say Cardinals take it. This is the best game coming up of the season so far, I'm pretty sure. Bills at the Chiefs.
Oh man, you remember that one game that was it a Sunday night game or Monday? It was a Monday night game between the Chiefs and the Rams that year that the Rams went to the Super Bowl, and they had that 108 point game or whatever it was. It was something ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. I think it was 54, 51 or something like that. It was insane.
Yeah. So 105. Yeah, that was about right, man. That's what this is going to be right here. This should be the Monday night game.
Oh, wow.
This should be Monday night or Sunday night. Why couldn't they just bump the Cowboys and Eagles and throw this one on Sunday night? Either way,
the Cowboys and Eagles is also a great game.
It actually is. Unexpectedly, as a matter of fact. Wow, this is great. We're going to get the Giants and Ravens, the Bills and the Chiefs, and the Cowboys and Eagles. Who would have thought these are the games we'd be looking forward to? We knew this one, though, the Bills and the Chiefs. These are, instead of the battle of the running quarterbacks, this is the battle of the 80-yard arms right here. wow, this is going to be a lot of points, and this is going to be a lot of passing. I expect there to be almost no run game here because both of these teams are going to have to score on every drive, and it's probably going to come down to who scores last. And we do know that the Bills' defense is much better than the Chiefs at this point, so that's going to give them advantage, probably more than the 3-point advantage just from being at home that Mahomes would have here. So I am going to go with Allen and the Bills to take this one on the road.
Yeah, this is an incredible game. You can kind of pick what you want here. It's just going to be a joy to watch. I'm going to agree with you. Take the Bills. They've been a bit more convincing very recently as well. The Chiefs, they won. They might as well have lost. Of course, if the Raiders make that 2-point conversion or they just kick and go to overtime, there's a very real chance they lose to the Raiders, in which case we don't talk about this as close of a game as we are now. And Buffalo, of course, never in danger, just completely dominated and rightfully are number one in the power rankings. So they are, along with Josh Allen, confirming their spot as the preseason favorites this year, and I think this is going to be the statement game to set up what is probably, likely to be the AFC Championship game, I have to say at this point once again. So Bills to win at Kansas City for me, but it's a close one and it's going to be a fantastic game. This is the one you want to watch. If you only get to pick one, this is the one you want to watch. Cowboys at Eagles.
Mm-hmm. And looking back through it, if Tua wasn't out, that Dolphins-Viking game would be a mega matchup also.
Yeah.
But right here, unexpectedly, Cooper Rush is still undefeated. Now, Dak, if you're close to coming back, don't worry about it. Just take some time. We'll be all right. There's no need to rush back. You don't want to get injured again. The Eagles pulled it off. Jalen Hurts really pulled it off. I think he had 2 touchdowns in that game, and one of them was with Goddard, a lineman, actually forcing him to go into the end zone. If he can't make it himself, we're going to make sure the whole team will come together and pull Jalen in there and make sure he gets that touchdown. Wow, I would have never thought this was going to be a tough matchup at the beginning of the season, especially after Dak went out. I'd be like, no way. There is no way the Cowboys have a shot at winning this game. This is 5-0 versus 4-1. This is ridiculous. How does this happen? I want Cooper Rush to win. I really do. I can't bet against the Eagles because they're undefeated and Jalen Hurts is looking like he might just be a superstar, at least for this season. But, man, I really want to see Cooper Rush keep winning. I want him to have that season. I like a good underdog story, and I would like to see him take that job from Dak. No offense to Dak, but Cooper Rush is better than Dak at this point. There's no way around it. But I will take the Eagles at home. They should pull it off in the end.
Yeah, this is a difficult one. I basically can echo the exact notion that you gave. Kind of believe the Eagles because of a better defense as well and a very strong running game. But as perplexing as it is for me to say, but you're sort of rooting in a weird way for the Cowboys because of Cooper Rush. I never thought that would be a team that I root for, other than if they played Seattle or something. I would never root for the Cowboys. But because I also like what you said about Dak, don't rush back. Very funny.
Yes.
He's undefeated, and it's getting more and more real every week that we talk about it. What happens once Dak is back healthy? And the Cowboys are 5-1, and Dak is that 1, and Cooper Rush is that 5. And say Dak comes back and they lose the next game, then what? This is difficult. This is not so easy. If they win this, and this is against the only undefeated Eagles, I don't know. It's gonna be really, really hard. It's gonna be really difficult. So I want it to happen. I'm gonna say it doesn't happen. I'm taking Philadelphia. I'm going with my notion of picking the undefeated team until they lose. When in doubt, that's usually what I default to, and they also play at home in prime time. So I'm gonna say this is the game where Cooper Rush opens the door for Dak to return. I hope it's not, but I'm gonna pick it that way. And then Monday night we have what was supposed to be a top game before the season, but both these teams are kind of in no man's land. Broncos at the Chargers.
Oh, and one last thing, I will repeat that this is eerily similar to the way that Dak won that job in the first place and got it from Tony Romo. Tony Romo was much older than Dak is at this point, but it's still possible. But the Fighting Austin Eckler's here. Austin came through in this game. If there was any doubt if Austin could still pull it off, he came through in this game in a huge way, and Herbert needs it because he is still hurt, and apparently it hurts him to throw the ball. So if you got a good running back that can not only come out of the backfield but catch really short passes and take them to the house, they're in a perfect position here, and the Chargers are winning in that fashion, putting up tons of points. I mean, 30 points with a injured quarterback is nothing to sneeze at there, and the Broncos are bad. There's no doubt about that. Russ and the Broncos are horrible. I mean, 9 points. I don't care when you played that game. If it was the middle of Sunday, 9 points is unacceptable. I got to take the Chargers. Chargers at home. Russ is bad. That's it.
Agree. I'm gonna go with the same idea, taking the Chargers. Broncos have been underwhelming. The Chargers have been underwhelming, given their record being 3-2. They're expecting more. They need this win. Both teams need this win. Arguably the Broncos even more so, because all of these teams are very much playoff aspirants. But I'm gonna say Chargers take it because you mentioned Austin Eckler is he's on like an offensive player of the year pace at the moment. Like, remember when I read out the stat line for Davante Adams earlier? He was behind Austin Eckler, and Austin Eckler's a running back.
Yeah.
So he's on that. He's on probably the trajectory of 1,000 yards in the ground, 1,000 yards through the air, which only 3 players in NFL history have ever done, and points to you if you can name them.
Let me think about that.
2 of them are well known to do it, and one of them is like you would never guess it. No, not as far as I'm aware, unless he did it the last 2 years or something. No.
I think it was like 3 years ago. I thought he had one. Who else do we got? What generation are we talking about here?
80s, 2000s, and modern.
Emmitt Smith?
Nope.
Oh my God! Why am I forgetting the Chargers running back?
It wasn't Latavius Tomlinson either.
Tomlinson.
I'll give it to you. There are Roger Craig, Marshall Faulk, and the other one that no one would ever come up with, David Johnson, in his one good year with Arizona.
Oh, that's right. That was 2015 or 16. Yeah,
I think something like that. Yeah, probably from fantasy you'd know it because he was a superstar. That 1 year, and people picked him first overall the next year.
Oh yeah, and
in like 17 or something. I think
he was injured in the first game that year too.
Yeah, but Austin Eckler now is suddenly kind of on pace for that, and he's playing at Offensive Player of the Year level at the moment, which is exactly what they need with Justin Herbert not at full capacity. The defense still needs to step up. They're playing beneath what they should be given the class of the individual talent that they do have. But I agree with you, Chargers should win this one at home. It's going to be a close one. This is probably going to be one of those that comes down to a field goal at the end. I'll give it to the Chargers because they have the more let's say well-oiled offense. The Broncos, while they have equal talent on offense, they're just not working together yet. Like, Russell Wilson's just not working in tandem with his receivers. For whatever reason, they lost Javonte Williams for the year, which doesn't exactly help them. So I'm going to give the edge to the Chargers as well. So we have, 2 disagreements? Or was it 3? I think it was 3. Right?
Yeah, Cardinals, Seahawks, and
Bengals.
Bengals, Saints, and Ravens.
And the Ravens.
Giants, yes.
Yeah, that's all we had.
Yep.
Okay, so 3 disagreements. Hopefully 3 points for me. We'll see how it goes. Let us know your predictions in the comments. Also, we have the poll up for the weekly MVP voting, so go cast your vote. Let me know who your MVP would be if the season ended today. To me, it's Josh Allen. To you, it's also Josh Allen. But any opinions appreciated. And you can go vote on the channel community page. Let us know your picks. What are we wrong about? What are we possibly right about? And a quick preview what's going to be happening in the fantasy universe.
Yeah, the topic this week is going to be about the myth of buy low, sell high. That's a word or a phrase that has been passed around the fantasy community for quite some time, and it was completely relevant in previous years, but over the past 4 to 5 years, it has really become completely antiquated at this point, and we're going to talk about that. Also, I'll give out a few more keep trade cuts for the week, and we'll do the news and all that good stuff.
I like that. That sounds like a very interesting topic. I'm familiar with the concept, definitely not in fantasy football, though I know what it's implying. I never thought about that in fantasy, but that's a very interesting one. I'm going to make sure to watch that. So any fantasy players, definitely make sure to return. After this podcast is up, the Hurry Up Offense coming out, fantasy football advice, professional fantasy football advice for free, completely for free on this channel. Check it out. Give yourself a good shot going into week 6. And I guess is also now getting into the crucial phase in fantasy, as it is in the real NFL. Now is when the foundation is laid for a team to make a playoff push,
Absolutely.
as we also see in the real NFL. So make sure to take up as much advice as you can. Drop us a like on this video. Go check up the Hurry Up Offense if you're a fantasy player. Leave that a like as well, and subscribe to the channel. We're gonna see you in the next one.
Doses.
Check the scoreboard. Ha. Check.